the Evolution Security Podcast. Hello, everyone. We're so thankful that you joined us virtually. You tuned in to the Evolution Security Podcast. I am Aaron Davis, half of the Tactical Twins. My twin brother, Eric, is not with us because for some reason the U.S. Army at Fort Bragg determined he had better and more important issues to attend to. I tend to disagree with that, but hey, it is the Army, right? But we are blessed for a second time to have Olympic gold medalist and world champion shooter and the author of an amazing book called With Winning in Mind. I have my copy right here with all kinds of dog ears and notes and etc. written in that. An incredible book. We have Lanny Bassham. How you doing, Lanny? Thanks for coming on again.
Yeah, I'm doing great.
Again, it is an honor to have you on because we've learned a lot from you, and essentially, you are a world-renowned mental management coach, and your purpose, and you're quite effective at it, is to help your clients get to their highest potential through their mental game when it comes to whatever they're performing at. Now, I can say as a musician and as a pistol competitor and instructor that I can say my mental state whenever I am performing, depending on what I'm focusing on, not focusing on, or just my mood at the time, affects my performance in significant swings. And when it comes to Lanny's work, we're not talking about hokey motivational speaking. What we're talking about is fine-tuning the mental state and preparedness for high-level performance. And that would mean before, during, and after performance. Now, let me delve into that just a little bit more. That means before, that's years and days and just seconds before. And that's during execution of your skill set, and after, and that may mean for your right before your next performance, may be within minutes or an hour, or your ongoing performance and maintenance and improvements of your mental game. So with that introduction, Lenny, I just felt I really wanted to highlight my how much I've learned from you, and I want our audience to understand exactly where you're coming from, because your material is so important, and everyone likes to talk about mental game, but they don't really know what that means. But you've refined that to such a high level. We're excited to have you on again and highlight that for our audience. Now, if you wouldn't mind giving a little bit of background information for our audience members that are not aware of your work.
Well, my story is not all that uncommon. I was just a terrible athlete as a child. You know what? Everybody that as you're starting to grow, you get to a point in your life where you start comparing yourself to other people. You know, how do I fit in? How do I compare with other folks? And one of the ways you do that is through sport. And when I was about, 6, 8, 7 years old, whatever it takes, where you start trying out for things, and so I did, and I found out pretty quick that I didn't fit in at all with the kind of things that everybody was doing. baseball, basketball, football, those kind of things that all American kids do. I was kind of slow, short, and uncoordinated, and I just couldn't fit into that world. I'm about sixth grade, and we're studying Olympics in school, and the teacher makes a statement in class. She said, it's possible somebody in this class could be Olympic champion someday. I wonder who'd have the best chance. She was just trying to get some conversation going with the class. And this little boy sitting right next to me jumps right up and says, "Teacher, I don't know who'd have the best chance, but I know for sure who'd have the worst chance, Lanny."
Well, that's awful mean.
To be honest, that's kind of really pissed me off. I mean, I came home and I said, this is it. I'm tired of being told this. And I told my parents about it. And I'm an only child. And my dad was a military officer, kind of a tough guy. Got a battlefield commission on Anzio Beach in World War II. And his answer was, "Well, you just keep looking. There's something out there for you." My mother hauled me off the library and maybe check out books on Olympic athletes. And what I found out in reading those books is that all of these Olympic gold medalists had obstacles. Not the same obstacle necessarily that I had, but major obstacles, and they were overcomers. They were people that wouldn't just look at something and say, "Well, it looks like there's some reason, something in my way, and I'm going to turn around and quit or not try this." And I was inspired a little bit by that. It wasn't long after that I got introduced to rifle shooting through. I'm sure it was an NRA junior club, and so a friend of mine invited me to the rifle club meeting, and I had no idea about rifle shooting at the time. We didn't have any guns in the house. We fished, but we didn't hunt. And so I asked him, I said, "Well, tell me about rifle shooting." He said, "Well, it's an Olympic sport." And I said, "Are you sure?" Because none of the books that I checked out in the library are talking about Olympic rifle shooters. He says, "Oh yeah, it's Olympic sports. It's been in the Olympics forever." And so I said, "Okay. So how tall do you have to be a rifle shooter?" "I'm not very tall." He said, "Well, that doesn't matter." "And how strong do you have to be?" "I'm not very strong." He says, "The rifles aren't that heavy, man." And I said, "Okay, how fast do you have to be?" He said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Citius, Altius, Fortius, stronger, higher, faster. That's the Olympic motto." I just figured all the sports in the Olympics were kind of like that. He said, "Not rifle shooting. Rifle shooting is the only sport in the Olympics where you're trying to make the body stop." I thought, well, maybe I can do that. Going is my problem. And so I went to the rifle club meeting. They let me shoot, and I thought, "Boy, this is really cool. Shooting is really cool." And that's all I talked about all week. And my father takes me back the next week, and they cancel the program. Some trouble with the range. Boy, it didn't take me long to develop an obstacle. No place to shoot. What am I going to do?
Wow.
I'm 12 years old. But fortunately for me, my father didn't give up on me on this idea, and he got the keys to an indoor range that nobody was using at a National Guard armory, and took me there and began to teach me how to shoot. The only problem was my dad didn't know anything about shooting, about Olympic rifle shooting. He knew about service rifle shooting, the military and everything, but he didn't know anything about target shooting and like Olympic target shooting. So, but there was a marksmanship unit at the post he was stationed at. So he would go over there and meet guys that did know about it, and he would get information, and he would come back, and he began to teach me how to shoot. And so in the process of working with my dad, I learned a lot of things that later on I would find out that my dad was really an excellent coach. especially as it related to building my self-image and the kind of things that are important that we know that are important now. My father had in spades when he was teaching, and he was so successful. He spent so much time at the marksmanship unit that they ended up having him run that program for a while. And he was so successful, his team won a lot of things, and he was assigned to the United States Army Marksmanship Unit at Fort Benning. And
Oh,
at that
wow.
time in history, all of the medalists, the United States dominated Olympic rifle shooting during that period, and all of our medalists were at the Army Marksmanship Unit where my dad worked. Now, when I was first started learning how to shoot, there were no other shooters on the line, no other shooters on the range. It was just me. But if there's just you learn some valuable lessons. First of all, there's a lot of drama with other people. How do I compare with this guy? He's beating me. You have people talking about their bad shots, and well, I didn't hear any of that. And the other thing that my dad taught me was to be self-reliant. He say, look, if it's going to be, it's up to you. It's up to you. I mean, shooting is my kind of shooting is a individual sport. You're not waiting for somebody to. You don't have a teammate. You're not waiting for somebody to throw you the ball or whatever it is. And so I learned how to be self-reliant, and so when I got to there, my dad got reassigned to the Army Marksmanship Unit. I had access to the best in the world, and I took advantage of it. I went to the range and I talked to them and I watched them shoot and I learned from them, and they all had the same story. They all went to a college that had a shooting sports program. They all made All-American. They all took ROTC. And when they graduated, they were sent for a tryout at the Army Marksmanship Unit. And that's what I did. And I ended up at the Marksmanship Unit. And my first 3 years on the U.S. team, I managed to get in the top four, which was the big team, the blue team that went to all of the big matches. And but I don't remember winning anything in 3 years that was really important. I was a good team shooter, but I would shoot a really good score, maybe a personal best in a tournament. But my three teammates were gun gods. I mean, they were Olympic champions, world champions, multiple medalists, and you're just not going to beat those guys. But my practice scores were just as good as theirs. And it wasn't until I made the Olympic team in 1972 that I found out why I wasn't winning. It's because I got in the Olympics in 1972, and I just couldn't handle the pressure. I didn't have a mental game, and I ended up shooting poorly on my first half of the tournament. When I'd lost so many points that I didn't think it was possible for me to medal, I started, the pressure's off, and I started shooting fine, and I ended up with a silver medal. My teammate won the gold medal. And so I came home wanting to know everything that I could about the mental game, because that's the reason I wasn't winning. And I think there's a lot of shooters out there that are not winning or not reaching the top of their potential because they're paying so much attention on form and on subconscious skills, on shooting itself, and not on what you're supposed to think about while you're shooting. So I interviewed Olympic athletes in other sports for about 2 years and developed, all these guys that I talked to, none of them had the whole story, but everybody had a piece of it. And after a couple of years of doing this, I started putting the pieces together, and I realized there's a system to this. And I upgraded to it and won the world championships, and the next Olympics, it was a different story. And I won the gold medal and started this company in 1977. And so I've been teaching people this mental management system ever since. And And we get to work with a lot of different kinds of folks, PGA Tour players and people who have an animal partner like horse sports or dog sports or all kinds of things. I've got my children either are currently working or have worked with us as instructors, and my daughter teaches Miss USA and Miss America contestants, and my son teaches. One of my sons teaches junior golf and junior shooters, and it's a different way of looking at performance when you consider that there are tons of people out there that are able to teach form, but when you start talking about what you're supposed to think about while you do it, typically you don't have too many mental coaches out there. So basically, if you ask any top performer in a sport what percentage of your sport is mental, you're going to get a big number back. The number I get most often is my sport's 90% mental. And then you ask the second question, well, if your sport's 90% mental, how much time and money have you spent on the mental game since you've been doing it? And it's probably a very low number. And, oh, I read a book. Well, okay, that's it. That's all. This is 90% of the game, and this is all you're doing. And and there's several reasons for that. One reason is that it's a lot more fun to work on form because you actually get to pull a trigger, which is fun. I mean, that's the reason why we do this. Shooting is fun, but shooting well takes not only knowing what the body's supposed to do, but also what you're supposed to think about while you do it. And I think most shooters don't know the best things to think about while they're actually shooting. And so we try to solve that problem for them, and we've been focused on it full time for 45 years.
Let's take a quick break to mention Tenacor, who we're very honored to have as a sponsor of our show. They are the most innovative holster and carry solution producer in the market. Now, my current carry rig is a Glock 48 and a Cartoon 3. I also carry an extra mag in an Abdo AIWB mag pouch. And then, of course, there's the awesome Zero belt. Now, the Cartoon 3 is actually designed well for both appendix or hip inside the waistband carry. The key is the multiple ways you can adjust the camming bar, the cant, and the ride height. This allows it to be actually equally suited for both carry methods. The Abdo mag pouch is equally adjustable and thoughtfully designed. Now, the Zero belt. If you don't need a holster, at least grab a Zero belt. There is nothing like it, period. Now, I've just mentioned a few items here, but they have much, much more. And lastly, Tenacor wants you to be satisfied. If you aren't satisfied, they'll refund your money and pay to even have the product sent back to them. You can't lose, so go to Tenacor.com for carry gear that's as good as it gets. One thing that I really am fascinated with, and I think is one of the most important things, that I just want to delve deep into this, because this is one of the things that many people in higher performing sports do know about, but not everyone practices it very well. And that would be visualization, or I believe you like to call it mental rehearsal. Now, we had the honor and privilege of having on two of the top best practical pistol shooters in the world on the same show, a gentleman named Mike C. Clander and a gentleman named Rob Latham. And conversations with them about visualization, at least when it comes to visualizing stages as you are preparing for the match, they said that every single person at their level that are at the national and world champion levels, that every single one of them spends a lot of time before the match and especially during the match, memorizing the stages and performing those stages in their mind. Now, could you expand on that visualization? And one thing I would like to know is, as you were developing and learning about this mental game, I mean, I didn't realize it was so far back in your career that you keyed in on that. But how early did you start the or learn about the visualization aspect and start utilizing that? And just delve in more to how that works.
Well, there's tons of research, more recent than back in my day, but there's tons of research to show that if you rehearse something before you actually do it, that performance and consistency in performance improves. And there's a famous study that was done at Colorado Springs, the Olympic Training Center, by Sean McCann, and that where he did a study with golfers where they had a control group that weren't told anything. They had one group that was told, "I want you to rehearse that the ball is they're putting, and rehearse that the ball is going to go in the hole," and then another one that to rehearse that the ball was going to miss the hole, and everything else was they tried to equalize the three groups, and they did this for quite some time, and I don't remember the details right now, but it just showed up that the control group got a little bit better after doing this every day for a week, and they got a little bit better, and I credit that to practice. You know, they were out there, so they found out what things worked, and they tried to duplicate that. And the group that did the best were the people that rehearsed the ball going in the hole, and then the group that rehearsed that the ball missed the hole, they were a lot worse at the end of the week. And I mean, that's just a simple, but that's a test that can be duplicated and has been duplicated by schools and colleges and places all over the place. So that's just one example of it. But I agree with Rob, and that rehearsing is a key component to our program, and we actually teach a system that says that everything that you do in life has three phases to it: an anticipation phase, where you're preparing to do something; an action phase, where you do it; and a reinforcement phase, what you think about after you do it. And rehearsal appears in the anticipation phase and the reinforcement phase in our program. So when we're teaching practical pistol shooters, obviously you're going to rehearse. You're going to rehearse the stage and what targets and how you have to move to those targets, and you're going to rehearse that and so forth. But in addition to that, before the tournament day starts, let's say the tournament day is the action phase. Shooting the stages in that competition is the action phase of the day. Well, what's the anticipation phase? In other words, what should you be thinking about before you actually step onto the course to do a rehearsal? So to get a mindset that will allow you to have a strong start and to stay strong throughout the day. And so rehearsal plays a big role in our system and the anticipation phase of a day. What I'm concerned about is that people rehearse not only their process, what they're going to do, their routine, which is what you're physically doing, their mental process, what you're going to think about while you're doing it, but also how do you really want to feel all day? You know, if you were to start out every tournament, before you get to the course, just find, maybe in your vehicle the morning of the tournament, if you just sit there for just a few minutes and think, how do I want to feel today? I want to feel in control. I want to feel confident. I want to feel powerful. But I want to move aggressively but smoothly. I want to operate in a way that I control my emotions all day long. I want to learn, but I also want to lead. I want to make sure that I'm the kind. At the end of the day, I'm going to look back on the way I handled myself, and I'm going to be proud of me. Those kind of thoughts uh, will do a lot to be able to have you repeat those. It becomes like you to do it. You create an imprint in your self-image of this is how you want to do. This is going to be a valuable day to you. And if you hired somebody, if you were their coach, and you hired somebody, you would want to tell them to give them that kind of a talk before they went out there and represented you in a tournament. Well, so you're self-coached. Most shooters are self-coached. You're not going to drag a coach along. You're certainly not going to pay for me to go with you into tournaments, but that's what I would tell you. I would say that you need to talk to yourself and get yourself ready to go out there and rehearse how you want to feel. So that's one thing that you should do. By the way, that kind of rehearsal, we have a name for that. We call it preset. And the way that the term preset came about is that back in my day, we used to have radios in the car that had little numbers by them, and you could punch that preset and it would go right to that channel of that radio station. And now they got all this electronic stuff in their cars. So maybe in my wife's car, you don't even have to touch the radio. You just have to talk, and it goes to the channels. But the preset is designed to give you a rehearsal to create a mindset that of a champion at the beginning. By the way, one tip: if you don't preset your practice sessions, it won't be like you to preset your tournament session. So it's very
That's
important.
amazing.
Don't ever start a practice session without presetting your practice session. You're practicing the preset for a tournament. So it starts right there. Okay, then the other form of rehearsal is when we break our system down into a preload, mental program, reload. Preload and mental program are the two parts of the anticipation phase of a stage for a practical pistol shooter. Okay, so what is preload? Well, preload is the three steps of preload is the first one is strategy. Everything that you have to do to get information about this stage, and you gather the information about the stage. How am I going to move, and what am I going to do? You make decisions about how you're going to work this particular stage, and then you're going to rehearse it. And their rehearsal shows, and you're going to rehearse. If you're allowed to walk a stage, where you can walk through a stage to get. I will tell you that physically moving imprints more in your self-image than just thinking about moving. If you're given the opportunity to simulate the move that you're going to make, the probability that you will get the most out of rehearsal will be improved. That's why you see, if you watch pro golf at all, you see golfers take practice swings before they hit a shot. Because when you can almost program what your body is going to be doing by rehearsing that. Now, I use the term rehearsal instead of visualization. Now, if somebody is using the term visualization and they mean the same thing that I'm describing about rehearsal, then it's just a synonym for what I'm calling rehearsal. But I think sometimes people confuse visualization with what I call rehearsal. That experiment that I was telling you about golf and putting, they were visualizing where the ball went. Well, I don't want my shooters doing that. I want them to visualize how they got it there. I want them to visualize, what does the stroke feel like? What does the move feel like? What does it feel like to line up the sights and tap the trigger correctly? What does that feel like? Not just what it looks like. It's not wrong to rehearse outcome, but it is wrong in my view not to rehearse what it feels like to do it, because that is a far more effective form of rehearsal than just visualizing that you hit the plate or you're in the scoring ring. And so I feel like that's if that definition is included in your term visualization, then I'm sure that Rob Latham is doing that. And I've only talked to him infrequently over the years, but he's anybody that has the record that he has. We do more things in common than we do differently. I guarantee you.
Interesting.
And there's also rehearsal in my system. There's rehearsal after the stage. And I want my clients to understand that performance is a function of three mental processes: the conscious, the subconscious, and the self-image. And those three mental processes, your thoughts, your skills, and your self-image, those three mental processes are directly related to the three phases of a task. The anticipation phase is a conscious circle issue. The action phase is a subconscious circle issue. And the reinforcement phase, what you think about after the stage is over, after the run is over, is directly related to the self-image. Because when you finish the stage, you finish the run, you're for sure going to evaluate your run. You're going to think about, their thoughts going to cross your mind. Well, I did that well. Or I did that. I was quick and I was accurate, and or I wasn't. You're going to grade yourself, and we think, okay, make that a part of your system. But how you grade yourself matters, and we decide. We suggest that maybe you should put what you just did in one of three categories. Great. I wouldn't change a thing. That's about as good as I can do it. Okay, it wasn't great, but it was okay. I mean, it's at least average for me, or maybe above average for me. It's okay. Anything else needs work. There isn't. I'm going to throw my shells in the dirt. I'm going to be pissed off, and I'm going to complain about this to my buddies. Stage. There's no category for that. I'm not going to split my wrist over this one category. It just needs work, and those words were carefully chosen, because now the second step after you evaluate is, if it needs work, well, what work does it need? What is the recommendation? What do I need to do? And you want to reinforce the solution, not the problem. Because every time you think about the problem, your self-image shrinks. Every time you think about the solution to a problem, your self-image grows. So you're going to rehearse. We're going to rehearse the solution. So rehearsal is a big part of our system. If you want to have have mental consistency, you're going to use rehearsal a lot. It's a big deal.
Well, and I know about this system. I've read your book, and often think about it. I use it. Many of my friends and a good friend of mine named Mike Brown, who actually had some lessons from you, personal and private lessons. But at the same time, I just kind of go on down the road and I'm consistent with it, and then I'm inconsistent with it. It's just, that's a hard part of it because, right, like you said earlier, there's so much focus that we put on the actual physical movements and executions of our performances. The mental, to use this word, gets crowded out, right? Because you're spending so much time on the other things, and you think you're working on your mental, but you're really not. And it's so awesome to hear you speak of this. I'm having a blast hearing you talk about this again, because it's encouraging to me. And this is just proof, just 30 minutes into this interview, how important people that want to increase their performance and do well and seek excellence, that they need to hear this. And so I'm excited about it. You can hear me scratching notes here because I don't just want to re-listen to this. I want to take notes. Now, so then this brings us to what you prescribe as the affirmation statement. I'm not sure if that's exactly what you call it, but this is something that I am pretty good at doing and using it in my goal process. Now, interesting enough, so Eric and I both took a few classes under the Range Master program to become certified as basic pistol instructors, and then on into the advanced. We both used after affirmation statements, to meet those goals. And my brother just gained his purple belt in jiu-jitsu. He used the affirmation statements for that. And right now, literally in the last couple of days, I've been refining an affirmation statement to get to an ideal weight. Like a lot of people, that's even in your book. That's one of the examples. And it's setting an affirmation statement that's correct, like you say, as not just saying I want to lose, which in my case, my ideal weight will be about 15 pounds lighter than I am. But I'm not going to write that affirmation statement that I'm losing 15 pounds. What it really is I am getting down to my ideal weight, which is 15 pounds less, and then I'm going to maintain that. Now, that's not the actual statement, but that's the energy or the idea behind that affirmation statement. But can you delve deeper into that? Because we talked a little bit about it on your first interview, but I'd like to hear more about that and let our listeners in on that.
There's a tool in the book with winning in mind called a directive affirmation. And when you an affirmation itself is a one sentence statement of something that you want to do, have, or be. It's kind of like a goal statement. It's an affirmation. It's a one step. It's like I want to be a master class shooter. I want to be a AAA shooter. I want to be
that master class shooter is one of mine.
Something like that. Okay. Yeah. So it is a statement. Oh, okay. That is an imprint in your self-image. If you say it properly, but I wanted it to be more powerful, and so I created the directive affirmation to separate that title, to separate it from just simply a statement of something that you want to do, like a goal statement. We have a goal statement in our journal, in the journal that we sell. That each day you fill in your journal after you finish shooting, and the last statement in the journal is a one sentence affirmation, goal statement. We call it a goal statement. But what you're talking about is, I think, is the directive affirmation that's listed in the book. The purpose of the directive affirmation is for you to change any habit or attitude that you have that's locking you up, that's keeping you from reaching your goals in 21 days. Now, there are a lot of things that people try to use a directive affirmation to fix that is inappropriate for that tool. The tool is designed specifically for the following. First of all, you have to be willing to change. You have to get to the point to where you say, I'm going to do something about this, whether it be weight loss or in anything, dealing with pressure, whatever it is you come up with a decision that I am going to do. I'm serious about this. Okay. So if somebody tries to make you run a directive affirmation and you're not ready to run it, it's not going to work. So you have to be serious. The second thing is you have to recognize a habit or an attitude that you want to become. I want to become this person. I want to become like this person. That habit that's different from what I currently do. For example, we have a performance journal, and most people don't keep a performance journal. They don't recognize that the importance of a journal and so forth. And so, but let's just say that it's not like you to keep a performance journal, and you wanted to write a directive affirmation that is like you to keep a performance journal. Okay, you could say, well, what is the person that I am right now? Well, what is my habit? Well, my habit is when I finish shooting, I clean my guns, I pack up, and I go home. Well, what do I need to change? Well, I need to be someone that before I do that, or maybe before I get my vehicle to go home, I pull out my journal and I record in my journal and do a good job of it. That's the habit. Well, what's the attitude that you have? Well, the attitude is that I think it's important to record what I did and what I learned and what I did right, because I think that my self-image it needs to grow, because the better my self-image is, the greater the probability that I'm going to score well in tournaments. Okay, so you have a habit or an attitude that you can define that habit and attitude. Like, let's say you do want to weigh 50 pounds lighter than you do right now. Well, there's no secret about weight loss. Weight loss is basically, what it says is, my opinion of weight loss, and I struggle with it a little bit, is that that I know I got this figured out. I got to eat what I don't want to eat. I got to exercise when I don't want to exercise, and and I don't want to do it. I don't want to eat those foods, and I don't want to give up the things I do like to eat. But if you like being trim and fit more than you like those things, you have to change your self-image. You have to do the things that people that are trim and fit do, and you have to think like they think, and that's what a directive affirmation will do. It will, and the way it's done is by creating an imprint of the self-image that you want to turn into. In other words, we have some examples in the book about that. So, we start out with a goal statement. Let's say you weigh 200 pounds and you want to weigh 150. You say, well, I'm a fit, healthy, good-looking 150-pound man, like that. And then the second step is, in our directive affirmation, is a pay value step. I look good in my clothes. I feel better. I can get more work done. Whatever it is, you write that down.
The rewards.
Then there's the habit, the plan step, and the plan is that I plan my meals. I carefully eat a balanced diet. I exercise 4 times a week, and you be specific. And here's the key with the directive affirmation that a lot of people miss. And when I redo this book, I'll have to make it a little bit more clear for people. The only thing that you can put in the plan statement in a directive affirmation are things that you're not currently doing, not doing enough, or not doing right.
Okay, yeah.
And if you do those things, the goal will be achieved. Whatever goal statement you say, I'm 150 pounds. Well, so let's say that you put in there that I plan my meals out, making sure that I eat no more than 1,500 calories a day, or whatever method you want to use. I treat myself with all the ice cream I want, but I only do it once a year. Something like that. I don't know, but you're eating ice cream every week, I drink water. When you're drinking beer. Who wants to drink water when you can drink beer? Come on. But if you want to be trim, maybe the beer intake needs to change. So you come up with habits and attitudes that if I do that, there's no way. If you exercise properly, and I'm no fitness expert, but there's plenty of them out there. They can go to any gym. They'll tell you what to do, and you are consistent at it, and you treat it with a high priority in your life. You will drop weight, and I would be a little bit careful about. As a competitive shooter, I would be a little bit careful about doing things that are quick fixes. Try to lean toward the lifestyle changes rather than the crash courses, because you probably won't stay with a crash diet, or you probably won't stay with a crash exercise program, but you probably will stay with something that is more something you can live with, something that you can sustain over a long period of time. I would suggest that if you're going to do anything about that you get serious about the fact that I don't want to go back. Once I achieve the self-image of the person I want to be, I don't ever want to go back to who I was before. I want to grow and stay there. So a directive affirmation is a paragraph that you write out, if you do it correctly, in the first person present tense, of a goal, a pay value, and a plan, and we repeat the goal at the end. And you make 5 copies of it, and you put it in key points around your house. And a key point is a place that you're likely to go to more than once a day. So if I was going to do a directive affirmation right now, I would definitely put it on the top of my laptop, because I open my laptop 3 or 4 times a day. Well, every time I open my laptop, I read and rehearse the directive affirmation. There's that rehearsal step again. I'd put it on a door I walk through in my home office. I would put it on a bathroom mirror. I would put it on the refrigerator door. And so your goal is every time you go to a key point, you read and rehearse your directive affirmation.
Now, and when you say read, you mean read out loud, correct?
Yeah, you don't have to read it out loud,
Okay.
but the key is to get 10 to 15 imprints a day, and you run it for 21 days, and you date the directive affirmation, the date that you're going to take it down. So the date that you put it up, 21 days later, you date the directive affirmation of the date that you're going to take it down, and then take it down at the end of 21 days. And I promise you, if it's written correctly and you do 10 to 15 imprints a day, it won't take 21 days. It won't take more than 21 days for you to change, to become the person that you're imprinting. The self-image that you have right now got there by imprinting, and it will change by imprinting. So that's what a directive affirmation is in a really short deal. Now, we have online courses that cover that. We have online courses that cover our system. We have, as a matter of fact, I will for sure do a webinar on shooting fast and accurately this year.
Oh,
So I will definitely do that, and you can find out about the options that we have available to people by either contacting me at Lanny@mentalmanagement.com or go to mentalmanagement.com's website, and I'm about to totally revamp the website, starting a fresh version of it next year in a couple of weeks. But there's a lot of information available on our Patreon site. All of the audios that we used to sell in CD form, I've converted to our Patreon site. So I'm be happy if anybody wants to send me an email at Lanny@mentalmanagement.com. I will send you the links of all of the things that I'm talking about here. The Patreon site, all of the audios that we used to sell, including Mental Management for Shooting Sports audio series, we used to sell it on CD for $200. All of those audios are on our Patreon site for our Patreon Gold members for $30 a month.
wow.
So you can go on a Patreon site, download a free Patreon player from the App Store, and you can load all of the CDs that we've created are on there for $30 a month. And go on, listen to whatever you want, go off whenever you want. And there's a ton of mental management information on there. And then if you will allow me to put you on my update list, I will update you of any of the webinars that we have and things like that. And I plan to offer weekly content on there, short, weekly, pertinent, helpful content, especially to people who the people that are going to be on that list are going to be people that are either competitors in a sport that is a proactive element. In other words, things like shooting, archery, the kind of golf, the kind of things where there's a proactive element, not so much team sports, but proactive sports. And that's going to be the focus of that. And I will be happy to send that out to anybody, or that would just send me an email, and we'll keep you informed.
Well, and I will make sure that we get that information in our show notes, information on your book in our show notes, and then of course point people to your website. I think people really need to get a hold of this. I know I'm going to take advantage of that. Now, that's exciting too about, our listeners. I'm sure they, just like me, their ears perked up when you said that you were going to do a webinar on shooting fast and accurate. So that's great. Well, now speaking of shooting, Lanny, I really would like to learn more about your actual shooting sport and your actual performances in it, because we talked a lot about it last time, but it was really kind of at the winning level, your specific competitions or the Olympics, etc. But I think it'd be fun to go into things like, okay, what kind of rifle was part of the, not brand or anything, but what kind of platform, etc., and what the types of competition that you were in, how those were conducted, pointing systems, etc., all that stuff, because I think our listeners would really enjoy that. I know I would.
Well, international rifle has changed over the years. When I was shooting back in the 70s, we had in the Olympics, let's just talk about the Olympics for a minute. The Olympics, we had three rifle events. We had a small bore 22 long rifle event, prone, 50 meters, 60 shots prone. That event. And that event, there were more countries shooting that event in the world, had Olympic shooters or competitions in that sport, that event, than any other sport. It was the most popular sport in the Olympic program.
Wow.
If you don't count swimming and track. Okay, so I mean, you take all the other sports, it ranked third among the countries that participated in that. I mean, and so
interesting.
We shot against men and women competed together in those days. And Margaret Murdoch was my teammate in 1976, and I won the gold medal. She won the silver. We actually had the same score, and I won the tiebreaker. But the second event, the event that Margaret and I shot, was the 50 meter three position prone, 40 shots prone, 40 standing, 40 kneeling, no scope, iron sights, with a 10 ring the size of an eraser on a pencil at 50 meters. So the bullseye is about a little bit larger than a teacup at 50 meters, and the 10 ring is about the size of an eraser on a pencil. And so that the wind is a big deal at 50 meters. It doesn't take much wind to blow a 22 caliber bullet. The event that I really loved the most was the 300 meter event, where you got target at 300 meters, and again the 10 ring is about the size of a teacup at 300 meters. The bullseye is pretty big, but if some people don't know what 300 meters is, it's 3 football fields together with end zones. That's 300 meters. But we're using, back in my day, we used 308, 30-06, single shot, bolt action rifle, Remington 700 actions with custom barrels, custom stocks, custom triggers, iron sights, no stabilizers, you couldn't break you couldn't put a muzzle brake on the barrel or anything like that. But you could you couldn't use a tripod or anything. You could wear a sling. You could hook a sling up to a rail on the rifle and shoot prone and kneeling with the sling. But you couldn't lean up against anything. So it's a great sport. 300 meters is a great sport. And it was also in the Olympics in 1972. And I won the World Championships in that event in 1974. And we have the World Shooting Championships every 4 years. And there are more events in the World Shooting Championships than in the Olympics. There's an event with more of a standard rifle that doesn't have the hook butt plates or the palm rests or the thumb hole stocks or anything like that. It's pretty much of a straight stock rifle. It's a half course. It's 20 shots in each position, but it is they have back in my day they shot it at 50 meters and 300 meters. You have team events in the World Championships, so it's possible to win team medals. In 1974 at the World Championships, I entered 6 individual events. I won 3 of them. I got a silver medal in 1, and I got 2 bronze medals in those 6 events individually. And I ended up winning a total of 15 medals in the World Championships in 1974. As far as I can determine, that's the most number of medals in a single World Championships that any athlete's ever done, and certainly in shooting, but maybe in anything, I don't know. It's just because there's a lot of events in the World Championships. In the Olympics today they've changed it quite a bit. After the Olympics in 76, the women's events were brought into the Olympics, and so now, currently, we have 3 rifle events. We have they've taken the prone event out, and we have the 50 meter event. But it's my understanding, if unless it changes before the Olympics, that they've cut the program down to a half course. So instead of shooting 40 shots in each position, now they're going to want to shoot 20 shots in each position. I really don't know what the shooters think about that. Me personally, I think that's not a good thing, but okay. But you have separate events for men and women at 50 meters. You have an air rifle event for men and women. In the air rifle event, the 10 ring, if you've got a really sharp pencil and you touch it to a piece of paper, that's the size, the mark it makes. If you just touch it, the mark it makes, that's the 10 ring.
Wow.
At 10 meters. With an air rifle, 33 feet with an air rifle, and the shooters today, if you hit that 60 times out of 60, the 60 shot match, you hit that 60 times out of 60, you probably won't make the top 8. You have to they don't grade you giving 10 points if you touch the 10 ring like you do in 50 meters. They grade in tenths. So if your pellet is centered on the center of the pellet is centered up with that 10 ring dot, you get a 10.9. If it's off center a little bit, you get a 10.8 or a 10.7. If you barely touch it, you get a 10.0. So the shooters today that get in the finals, they take the top 8. They go into a final. The shooters today are getting, both men and women, and our women are extremely strong. Our women are stronger than our men right now. They're averaging a 10.5 to get in the final. So not only are they just annihilating the 10 ring, they're putting those shots in. 10.5 is an incredible amount of skill. And our air rifle team is extremely strong. The current Olympic champion is a college student, a young man, but air rifle is a very popular sport because it's relatively inexpensive to shoot. You can build a range if you got a hallway that's 33 feet long, or a basement, or you can turn a classroom into an air rifle range, and can't do that with 300 meters.
No, you can't.
But anyway, you have air rifle, you have 50 meter 3 position, and you have a tandem event. For the first time in the Olympics, in air rifle, you have a man and a woman team event that's being introduced in the Olympics, and they've taken out the prone event, and they've taken out the 300-meter event, and much to my displeasure, because I think full bore shooting is, in my opinion, a lot more interesting than air rifle shooting or 22 caliber shooting.
I agree. So that's making me think about going back just a little bit with the events that you shot in, which was mainly the 50 meter with 22s. And now let me ask you this real quick. I don't want to go too deep in this, but were those bolt action too, or were those semi-auto?
They're single shot bolt action rifle.
Okay. Now,
All of them.
so I'm assuming that when you were shooting the 50 meter event, that you just simply had your rifle zeroed at that 50 meters, and you had to sometimes make wind calls, like you said. Not much, didn't take much wind to knock off a 22 caliber projectile. But then even going further into that, let's say you're running a 308 Remington 700 again at 300 meters. And that's with irons, like you said, assuming that you would show up and your rifles would be zeroed at that 300 meters, and then you just simply had to make wind calls.
Well, you get sighters at the beginning of each stage. So you have back in my day, they sometimes they would change the rules, but basically you have a certain number of sighter targets, and you can shoot as many sighters as you want, but your time starts when you know, if you stay in the sighter too long, you can run out of time. You can't finish your event. But you have a certain number of sighter targets to refine your zero. But you're obviously going to be pretty close, to zero. But you use the sighter targets to primarily to see what the wind is doing, at least when you start, and then when you're comfortable that you've got it under control, then you can go call for a record target, but you can't go back to the sighter once you start.
So when you're running those sighter targets, are you actually making adjustments to your zero, or are you just figuring out what wind calls are going to be in the ballpark?
You've got to decide. Let's say there's no wind. Well, I'm trying to zero for so that when I line up the sights, we normally use ring front sights with a round bullseye, ring rear sight, peep sight, and I'm probably trying to center the bullseye in the ring. But if the wind is blowing, and we have wind flags in 50 meters, we have wind flags at 10 meters and 30 meters, and there's a lot of flags to watch. So you can tell quite a bit of information from watching the flags, and then you've got to decide: do you want to click or do you want to shade? And if you want to shade, you got to know how much do I need to hold off? And you can, it's easy to shade prone. If you're a real good kneeling shooter, you can shade kneeling. It's some shooters, the better shooters can shade standing, but boy, it's tough to shade. But
So can you I am assuming you're using that term shade as in that's making wind calls on the fly, or is it, what does that mean, shade?
I'm saying hold off. I'm saying hold off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not trying to center the bullseye. I'm trying to.
You're doing holdovers or hold off. I see. Yeah.
Hold over, yeah.
That's
Sometimes it's better to do that than it is to to click, because if the wind is changing direction or reversing, you can get lost as to how many clicks you've got on, especially if you have elevation changes. So but shading, it's a little bit easier to keep up with it, especially if you can shoot quick and kind of chase the bullet a little bit.
So now I am thinking of, so as you are shooting, can you, in your field of vision, can you still see the wind flags? Or
Sure.
Yeah. So in other words, you can be on target and make some judgments on wind by seeing the wind flags in your peripheral.
Yeah, you can. Typically, what happens is that you take a look at upwind, the flags that are upwind. You take a look before you start your mental program or start the last phase of your mental program. So you're probably getting a good look at the wind about 7 seconds before you pull the trigger. But if it changes during that 7 seconds, it could affect you.
Interesting.
More than one time, it's happened to me that the wind has dropped off or gusted or something like that, and there's not much you can do about that because you really need to kind of pay attention to side alignment, side picture if you're 10 rings the size of an eraser on a pencil 50 meters away.
Well, I'll tell you what, Lanny, this much information is deeper than I thought you would go, and this is really fascinating. Now, on wind call, or as you were saying, hold over, or hold off. So we've had a actually he was in DevGru, a gentleman named Kyle DeFore, who was a sniper in basically SEAL Team 6, or now referred to as DevGru. And he's an amazing instructor in the United States. And if you want to take one of his classes, you have to sign up within about an hour to even get into one of his classes. But we had a fun conversation with him about wind calls. And of course, the most common thing would be to do your estimates of the distance using angular measurements on your scope, but then you would get your elevation right, but then you would have to make the wind calls because the wind changes, like you said, too fast to make any windage adjustments. So, but they said that in operations, the best thing, they had two methods of making wind calls. It was either Mirage, the way Mirage moved out downrange, or when you had a spotter, they could see the trace of the bullet. And I don't quite understand that, but I believe it's either you can actually see the travel of the bullet or maybe the disruption in the air. But either way, so it was bullet trace and then seeing the movement of Mirage. He said that the movement of foliage was not a good indicator because of different foliage in different places, because they're performing in unknown areas, right? Unknown distances, unknown wind conditions, unknown foliage, etc. But it's fun to hear about your situation too, because
well, he had a big advantage because the scope is a big advantage.
Yes, sir.
You can get pretty accurate as to how far away it is, and there's a whole sport, a growing sport called Precision Rifle Series. That's growing, and I've got several clients in that sport, and they're making shots out at 1,200 meters and competitions at 1,200 meters. So it's somebody that likes to play with calibers and loads and bullets and all that stuff, fun stuff. that's your sport right there. And if you want to, but that's a big advantage to have a scope. But our sport still today is all line sights. Now we have American target competition, rifle competitions that allow scopes, but a service rifle now is a scoped event. But and some small bore, even when I was shooting, we had some small bore prone events that were, and even three position that were scoped and national level national championships of using scopes, but not in the Olympics.
Well, and taking that all the way back from scopes to irons, there's lots of people like me, and with my vision, I couldn't rely on irons. Now I can. I actually had cataract surgery. I had early onset cataracts and had my lenses replaced. I say I have bionic vision now. I can see much better, boy, especially through a scope. But irons, I'm intimidated by that. Now, I have one more question about that, and then we'll probably start calling it a good interview here, Lanny, because I've had you here for about an hour and 15 minutes. But I'm curious, so when you're the front sight of your irons, approximately what was the size, or more than anything, the width of the front sight? Do you know what I'm asking?
The width of the front sight.
Yeah. So right.
Or okay.
So right, if you've got, you can see here, I've just using the example of pistol sights. A lot of the times you'll have your rear notch and it's 0.15 inches, but then your front sight is 0.12 inches, something like that. Was there known measurements, or because it's
our front sight on your barrel is a ring. It's a round front sight.
Okay, so it's literally a ring.
You have a plastic insert in the front sight that it's also a ring. It doesn't have to be. It could be a post front sight, but most of us shot with a ring front sight. So it's a piece of glass that has a hole in it with a painted ring, so that when you look through it through the rear sight to the front sight, you line up the front sight ring with the rear sight peep, so that establishes sight alignment. And then sight picture is where the bullseye is within the ring.
Okay.
And so, gosh, I can't remember exactly what the ring diameter was.
That's really fascinating. So as I'm sitting here picturing this, so we've got a makeshift. I didn't expect to be doing this live, but so let's see. So as I understand what you're saying, this middle circle, let's say that's your bullseye, that's your target. Like, let's just say it's an old B8 or something like that. But your sight is this ring, and you are seeing this ring over the target, and you're trying to line up. Let's say you're not concerned about wind at this point, but that you're basically putting that circle around your circle target or your circle bullseye. Am I understanding that right?
Your ring front sight is you're trying to center your ring front sight and your rear sight. That's your sight alignment, and then bullseye is round, so you're trying to put it in the middle of the ring front sight.
Yeah.
For your
okay. So yeah, that's what I was trying to draw, and how I understood it. That's fascinating. I'll be honest, I've never heard of that type of sighting system. So that's fascinating. Wow.
Yeah, that's what all of them are like.
So in other words, that you really had to have a dialed in visual reference of how that how that bullseye or the bullseye was within that circle ring. Wow. No wonder there's world-class shooters that the world-class shooters have to be so good and then of course have their mental game down like you did.
You can have if your vision is not correctable to about 2010 with lenses, if it's not naturally 2010 or it can't be corrected to 2010, you're probably not competitive. When my vision, I developed a vision disease in 1981, which retired me from Olympic shooting. I was number one in the world when I went out, but my vision is not stable, and when that happened, I had to stop. I had to stop shooting. Now I could have shot something else. I could have shot archery or shotgun or something else, but by that time, I knew how hard it was to get to the top in rifle shooting. It's just as hard to get to the top at anything else, and I didn't want to have to go through all that.
Almost like starting over a whole new sport.
I wasn't willing to pay that price, the sacrifice to my family and my wife and all that kind of stuff. So, and I enjoy teaching. I like what I do, and I fell in love with helping people with their mental game, and so that's kind of what we do today. But I promise people that if you'll pay attention to the mental game, and your performance will improve, and you'll be more consistent, and you'll shoot better scores, and you can't wait because your competitors are paying. They're not. The days are over that people are not paying attention to this. Back when I was shooting, we thought that mental toughness was something you had. It wasn't something you could learn. So we weren't trying to learn it. And back in the 70s, well, those days are over. People are too savvy now.
Information is just if there is information out there, and if you don't have it, it's because you haven't searched for it, right?
Well, you're going to be beaten by the people that do have it, and if you're not running a system so that you're achieving mental consistency, it's possible when you run our system. It's possible for your mental game to be a constant, not a variable. And anytime you can make anything consistent, it's a good deal. It's a good thing.
Wow. Well, then, before we go, Lanny, I am curious. Do you still get to shoot now? Do you get to shoot?
I shoot recreational shotgun.
Awesome.
I can't shoot international rifle anymore.
I don't care if you compete or not. I just want to know if you get to shoot for fun. So
I do. I get to shoot. I like to shoot shotgun. I used to shoot a bow. I got a bow. I used to shoot that a little bit. Back when I was in still shooting international rifle, I shot a free pistol. I shot air pistol. I mean, if it goes bang, I probably would like to do it. I mean, action pistol is all your practical pistol sports. Oh, you guys are having a lot of fun. I would really like.
yeah.
I would if we'd have had precision rifle series back when I was shooting, I would have shot that because you can use the scope with that, and I can handle the scope. But we didn't have it. So there's a shooting sport for everybody. And if people will just give it a chance, and most of the people that I've introduced to shooting are still shooting.
Mm-hmm. Because it's a blast.
It's a blast, and it's a lot of fun.
Well,
and people are really nice. People are really the best people in the world are shooters. Archers are great. Archery treats us really good. Golf treats us really well. Golf's a shooting sport. I mean, the same mentality that makes a good shooter makes a good golfer. So they're really nice people, really good people, and
Yeah, that's amazing. Along the same lines, the people that I meet in classes where you actually kind of beat up on each other and go through grueling exercises, wrestling and combatives, and then shoot each other with simunitions guns. Those are some of the coolest people on earth. And it's the same with shooting sports too. Now, then one last question. So what's your favorite shotgun then?
I have a Krieghoff Model 32 12 gauge shotgun, sporting clays gun.
Awesome.
Actually, it's an all-purpose gun. I shoot skeet with it, so it's I like my first shotgun was Krieghoff. I've known the family for a long time, and it's a great shotgun, all-purpose shotgun.
Great. Well, now then, give your email and your website one more time, Lanny.
Okay, my email is Lanny, LANNY, at mentalmanagement.com, and the website is mentalmanagement.com.
Well, great.
I'd love to hear from you guys.
Yes. We will implore our listeners right now and in the show notes. And I'll tell you, Lanny, this has been a blast of an interview. This stuff like this, that is the shooting skills, the martial arts skills are a blast, but this is fascinating. And going into, of course, like I'm saying, the fun shooting stuff, it's a blast for all of us. So it was fun for me to hear you talk about that side, not just the amazing mental stuff. So it's been an honor. Thank you so much, Lanny. This means a lot to us that you would take your time and come on our show. So you have a good evening, sir. Thank you.
So you got a telly in the back.
And
you got is that a episode 335?
So for fun, real quick, then we have a quick second here.
What is that? All kinds of brands out there.
So this is actually a custom guitar from a man named Saul Cole, who is a high-end luthier in Portland, Oregon. He's someone that has become a really good friend of mine, and this guitar is essentially, like you said. I think you mentioned it might be you asked if it was an Epiphone. This is, of course, a very, very high-end version of a Gibson ES335.
Yeah.
And I, at first, saw, I wanted a 335 type guitar from him, but he was not tooled up to build one. And this was 16 years ago, I think. But over that 16 years, I had purchased 5 other guitars from him, and he finally relented after being a friend. And he built this for me, but it took 4.5 years to build. Not that it took him 4.5 years to build it, but over the process.
I just knew it wasn't a Gibson because of the headstock.
Yeah.
But I couldn't see how the headstock works. But that's great. Well, I play a little. I used to play a lot, but I don't play so much anymore. When I was 17 or 18, I could play. I've forgotten a lot. But
well, we have a lot in common, don't we, Lanny?
Oh yeah. Well, have a good one, and I will look forward to good luck on your podcast, and we'll talk to you soon.
Fun conversation, Lanny. You have a great evening. Thanks for coming on.